This is video 4 of the EDR Pilot tutorials. In this video, I'll be giving you a demonstration of how to complete a metered M&V plan. The video will be in 3 parts. I'll start with a bit of background to the metered approach. I'll then move on to give a demonstration of how you complete a metered plan and baseline spreadsheet, and finish with a summary. The metered approach itself involves the taking of readings before you install your equipment and then after you install your equipment. So the readings taken before, as shown by this blue line, mean that once you've installed your equipment, you can then work out what demand would have been. You can compare that with what the actual demand is, shown by the red line, and the difference between the two is the savings of your metered parts of your project. In the pilot, there are 3 metered M&V approaches that you can use. So the first is partial measurement. So if you've got a project involving a flat demand profile both before and after, that might look a bit like that, you can consider using the partial measurement approach. And partial measurement just means you take a series of discrete readings, as shown by the grey blobs here, both before and then after, and you use those readings to calculate the savings. In the full measurement approach, if you've got a project where demand is a bit more variable, so quite squiggly, both before and after, as shown here, then you'll need to use a full measurement approach. And full measurement just means you need to take continuous readings using a half-hourly meter. And the reason is that variability means you need continuous readings to work out what's going on and to actually calculate savings. Full measurement approach has 2 variants, so that just depends on which actual meter you're using to capture those before and after readings, so whether it's a sub-meter or a site meter. But there's more information on how you choose which metered M&V approach in section 3 of the manual, and there's decision trees there to help you decide which is appropriate for your project. You may decide to use one or a combination of approaches. So before you start, you need 3 bits of information. So the first is the details of your existing and replacement equipment. So you'll need the type and model, kilowatt values, and location of your existing and replacement equipment. You'll also need the quantity being installed and replaced. You'll need to also provide the time of use of your equipment over the winter peak period, so that's November to February, weekdays 4 till 8 p.m. And finally, you also need to provide evidence to support the kilowatt values of the replacement equipment in your project. So you don't need to provide anything for your existing equipment, it's only the replacement equipment. And what that means in practice is you need to provide a technical specification or a supply quote for each replacement equipment type in your project. So if you had a project of, say, 20 pumps of 2 different types, you need to provide technical specifications or supply quotes substantiating the kilowatt values for the 2 pump types. In terms of what you have to provide, first off is the metered M&V plan. So in this document you would provide the details of the metered parts of your project, both the existing and replacement equipment, to calculate your expected winter peak savings. You also need to provide baseline data, and you need to use the right spreadsheet to provide your baseline data depending on which, and they're all slightly different depending on which M&V approach you're using, so you need to make sure you use the right one. Provide that baseline data either at application stage or by 30th March of your delivery year. You need to provide technical specification or supply quote for each replacement equipment type in your project. Once you've completed your metered M&V plan, you'll need to also fill in your M&V summary sheet, which with your metered savings, and then if you've got deemed that as well, to calculate your total savings for your project. I'll now switch to the website to show you where you download these documents and how you complete them. So this is the main landing page for the EDR Pilot webpage. Scroll down to supporting information and documents page link. Click on the measurement and verification manual and forms link. First, you'll see that we've got all the guidance in the M&V manual. Appendix A relevant for the deemed approach, but Appendix B, if you're doing a metered approach, you might want to look into if you're interested in a bit more on checking the accuracy of your baseline. Beneath that, you've got the M&V document. So here, the summary sheet, which you complete at the end. You've got your deemed M&V plans if you're doing those. If you're doing a metered approach, this is where you would click to download the relevant plans. A spreadsheet, a zip file then downloads. You then would download your metered M&V plan, put in the details of the metered part of your project to calculate the total expected savings for the metered parts. You would then, once you provide your baseline data, you'd need to complete the relevant baseline spreadsheet, and the details on which spreadsheet you need to use is included in the manual. So you can go to section 3 of the manual to find more information on that. There's also a sample size calculator here. But I'm not going to download any of those. I'm actually going to use one of the measurement and verification examples that we've uploaded here for you to show you how you fill these in. So I'll click on that. Again, zip file downloads. I will now download the metered M&V plan. So in this, remember the metered M&V plan is where you put the details of your metered parts of the project to calculate the expected savings for the metered parts of your included in your project. So we land first on the cover sheet. So very straightforward: participant ID, application ID, the organisation name, and who it's completed by. Here you have a description of your project. So you've got the site, the technologies involved, and time of use, etc. Grey boxes are automatic calculations. So you can see there's an estimated total kilowatt reduction already calculated at 271.5. So that's automatic calculates based on the information you provide in the expected savings tab. We'll come on to that in a moment. White cells are where you provide input yourself. So cover sheet, very simple, straightforward. Expected savings tab. Here you put the details of your existing replacement equipment of the metered parts of your project, and you'll use that to calculate the expected peak kilowatt savings for the metered parts. So first thing to note before you get into filling in the information is the column headings have either free text in brackets beneath them or drop down list. If it's a free text, you just put information directly into the cell yourself. If it's drop down list, you must choose from one of the options on the drop down. In terms of the information, the kind of information you've got to provide about your existing replacement, we can see you've got your site code. We've got 3 sites here. Details of your existing replacement equipment. Make sure that you look at the grey boxes to make sure you provide the information in the right format. So number, make and product description are shown here. So we've got some induction motors, pool pumps in the existing technology side, and we've got some replacements shown there, and we've got both the quantity and kilowatt values for each. Then there's a technology category. This is a drop-down list, so we use a drop-down to indicate which category our particular technology falls into. We then put on our start and end implementation dates, and here you put in your expected kilowatt demand reduction. So that's simply just the difference between the kilowatt difference between the existing replacement times the number of units, so 84 in this case. If your supplier has automatically adjusted the kilowatt expected savings for the period or the time at which your equipment will be operational during the peak period, then you'd enter that value here. But in most cases that won't apply. You'll just simply enter the expected kilowatt demand reduction. I'll just minimize this window. So once you provided information about the existing replacement equipment, all you then need to do is indicate when it's operational over the winter peak period. So the winter peak period is November to February, weekdays 4 till 8 p.m. You start first with providing details of your typical operating periods for your equipment between 4 till 8, and that's broken down into 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8. And in each drop down, you indicate whether your equipment is operational for the full hour, first half hour, or second half hour, or not operational. And you do that for each hour. So I'll just adjust this, say for example, for the second half hour, and say it's not operational for the 6 to 7 p.m. period. Excuse me, I'll just click that again. And you'll see it automatically adjusts your expected kilowatt demand savings for the actual time that it's operational for the 4 to 8 p.m. period. So it's now 52.5 instead of 84. That's the peak relevant kilowatt saving. In here, these are all drop downs. This is a free text one. This is an important one. So in this column here, you indicate the number of days over which your equipment is operational over the winter peak period. So November to February weekdays. Maximum is 83. If it's less than that, you need to actually adjust the number accordingly. Here you just provide a free text description of the operational periods of your equipment. Once you've done that, your expected peak kilowatt demand reduction will automatically calculate and show here, and that will feed through to your cover sheet. And you'll see now this says 240 because I've slightly adjusted some of the inputs in the expected savings tab. The M&V approach and baseline tab, here you just provide a bit more information about the M&V approach you're using. So in this case, there's partial measurement, full measurement, submeasuring, and the whole site. So 3 of the different approaches are shown here. You just provide details of, for example, your MPAN numbers, so your meters, the baseline length, etc. And make sure that you do pay attention to whether it's free text again or whether it's drop down. If it's drop down, you must use the drop down list. Actual time of use tab you can ignore. You don't need to do anything with that for some time down the road. Help tab provides a bit more information on some of the cells as well. So once you've completed your expected savings tab, your expected kilowatt total reduction for the meter parts of your project displays here, and that's the number you would put in your M&V summary sheet for the meter parts of your project. So that is all derived from your expected savings tab. At the application stage, you need to complete the expected savings part to calculate your expected savings, and you need to complete the M&V approach and baseline tab. So it's only the first three that need to be completed at application stage. Your actual time of use doesn't come into play until well down the road. I'll now switch back to the zip file with the examples in them. Now here we've got examples of the baseline spreadsheets completed. So the relevant baseline spreadsheet that you need to provide your meter reading in will depend on which M&V approach you're using. So in this case, I'm just going to download the average readings, full measurement average readings baseline spreadsheet, but the one you'll need to download will depend on which M&V approach you're using. So there's three different types to use. So you can use the manual to make sure you use the right one, but this should give you a good sense of the principles and what you need to do for each. So first off, we land on the cover sheet again, straightforward, participant ID, application ID, the organisation name and who it's completed by. Light blue cells show the automatic calculations, outputs of automatic calculations, so shown here. Grey boxes you can click on where it says you can click on more information to get a bit more information about what you need to provide. Green tells you whether your inputs are okay, and red says that they're not, and white is where you provide a bit more input directly into the spreadsheet yourself. So going into the baseline spreadsheet itself, so in the baseline tab you click on that. Here's where you provide the baseline information and data. So you start with B1, the general information. That's just the source of your meter readings, whether it's your kilowatt or kilowatt hour data, so what meter is it from. Then the name of the data file that your meter data is contained in, because you'll need to provide your raw meter data. Then drop down which M&V approach you're using, so we'll leave that as full measurement submetering. In the sampling section, you just indicate whether you're using sampling as part of your metered approach, so more about that in the manual. If you indicate yes, you'll need to provide the details of your sample size and total population which it represents, and it will tell you whether your sample size is acceptable or not. I'll leave that as no. As I mentioned earlier, if you click on any of these grey boxes where it says click here for more information, you can find out a bit more information about what's being asked for, and it will pop up in a yellow box if you click on one of them. In B3, you provide your actual baseline data. So you start first with indicating whether your data is in kilowatts or kilowatt hours. So we'll leave that as kilowatt hours. You then actually provide your meter readings down here. So you first provide your start and end date for your readings. So in this case, it's just a day. And then because it's kilowatts in this case, it's the baseline kilowatt hours over the weekday 4 till 8 p.m. So in this case, it's 718. This then automatically calculates both the period and the actual average and total average in these cells here. So they're all light blue, so they're automatically calculated. You've got some summary stats over here. So your average kilowatts, the baseline kilowatt demand. This gives a visual representation of what your data looks like. Really important to make sure that this blocks here is green and says yes. If it's red and says no, it means you haven't met your accuracy requirements, which means you either may need to add more readings or you may actually need to use a different M&V approach if that doesn't work. Similarly, if this is yes and green, that will indicate you've entered at least 6 readings down here. If it's red and no, it means that you need to provide at least, you haven't provided 6 readings, so you need to provide at least 6 readings. However, even if this says yes, if this accuracy requirement box says no, you will still need to add more readings. And if that doesn't work, you'll need to consider using a different M&V approach. Moving on to winter peak reporting tab. So after winter peak, you would just put your data in again, and again indicate the kilowatts, kilowatt hours. So for example, if it's kilowatt hours, you would then put your start and end dates, your kilowatt hours in this case here, and for the reporting period, and then it would automatically calculate the rest. And once you've done your baseline reporting, winter peak reporting tabs on the cover sheet, it will then show you what your verified kilowatt saving is. Final data requesting tab, you can ignore that for now. You don't need to do anything for that until sometime down the road, so you can ignore that. Help tab provides a bit more information on some of the cells if you need it. So at application stage, or by 30th March when you provide your baseline data, you just need to complete the cover sheet and baseline tab. You only complete the winter peak reporting tab once you've actually got your peak data after the winter peak period. So that's a quick tour of the baseline spreadsheets. As I say, you'll need to make sure you use the right one, and the M&V manual you can use to make sure you do use the right one. Quick checklist, so you'll need to provide a completed M&V plan which gives you expected savings for the meter parts of your project. You'll also need to provide baseline data, and that's at application stage or by 30th March, and you'll need to make sure you use the right baseline spreadsheet. You need to provide technical specifications for each replacement equipment type included in your project, and you need to make sure the kilowatt values match your plan. So if your pump is 8 kilowatts, the spec says 8 kilowatts, your plan must also say 8 kilowatts. If they don't match, your application won't be accepted. And then once you've got your metered savings, you put it into your summary sheet to calculate your total expected savings. In terms of more information for the metered approach, go to Chapter 3 of the Measurement and Verification Manual. All the information you need should be there. Appendix B, if you need a bit more information on checking the accuracy of your baseline. There's lots more information on our website, which looks like this, as you've already seen. If you've got any questions, feel free to get in touch on the email address here, edr-project@dec.gsi.gov.uk, or call us on 0300 068 8488. That concludes video 4.